The constitutional change will allow the winner of the 2019 presidential election to assume full control of the government, ending the current parliamentary political system. The ramifications, however, are immediate. The yes vote in the referendum is a validation of the current leadership style of Mr. Erdogan, who has been acting as a de facto head of government since his election in 2014 despite having no constitutional right to wield such power. The office of Turkey's president was meant to be an impartial role without full executive authority. The result tightens Mr. Erdogan's grip on the country, which is one of the leading external actors in the Syrian civil war, a major way station along the migration routes to Europe and a crucial Middle Eastern partner of the United States and Russia. Many analysts were surprised by the close result, saying they had expected Mr. Erdogan to achieve a larger majority because he had held the referendum within an atmosphere of fear. Since a failed coup last summer, Turkey has been under a state of emergency, a situation that allowed the government to fire or suspend about 130,000 people suspected of being connected to the failed putsch, and to arrest about 45,000. The campaign itself was characterized by prolonged intimidation of opposition members, several of whom were shot at or beaten while on the stump by persons unknown. The opposition questioned the legitimacy of the referendum after the election board made a last-minute decision to increase the burden needed to prove accusations of ballot box stuffing. At least 3 instances of alleged voter fraud appeared to be captured on camera. "We are receiving thousands of complaints on election fraud," said Erdal Aksunger, the deputy head of the main opposition party, the Republican People's Party, known as the CHP. "We are evaluating them one by one. The new system will, among other changes, abolish the post of Prime Minister and transfer executive power to the President. Allow the newly empowered President to issue decrees and appoint many judges and officials responsible for scrutinizing his decisions. Limit the President to 2 5-year terms, but give the option of running for a 3rd term if Parliament truncates the second one by calling for early elections. Allow the President to order disciplinary inquiries into any of Turkey's 3.5 million civil servants, according to an analysis by the head of the Turkish Bar Association. Academics and members of the opposition are concerned that the new system will threaten the separation of powers on which liberal democracies have traditionally depended. It represents a remarkable aggrandizement of Erdogan's personal power and quite possibly a death blow to vital checks and balances in the country, said Professor Howard Essenstadt, a Turkey expert at the Project on Middle East Democracy, a Washington research group. Judicial independence was already shockingly weak before the referendum. The new system makes that worse. Mr. Erdogan's supporters deny that the new system will limit political and judicial oversight. If opposition parties win control of parliament, they could override the president's decrees with their own legislation, while also asserting greater control over judicial appointments, supporters of the new constitution contend. The victorious Yes camp also argues that a strong, centralized government will make Turkey better able to tackle its many challenges, including a troubled economy, the world's largest population of Syrian refugees, 2 terrorism campaigns, a civil war against Kurdish insurgents and the Syrian war across Turkey's southern border. A new page opens in our history of democracy with this vote, Prime Minister Binali Yildirim, an Erdogan loyalist, said in a victory speech on Sunday night. "Be sure, everyone, we will use this result as best as we can for the wealth and peace of our people." The fearful environment in which the referendum campaign was held has led watchdogs to question its fairness. In addition to the vast purges of perceived opposition members, the authorities also often prevented no campaigners from holding rallies and events. And Mr. Erdogan and his supporters often implied that their opponents were allied with terrorist groups or those suspected of plotting last year's failed coup. "It's been a completely unfair campaign," said Andrei Hunko, a German lawmaker assigned by the Council of Europe to observe the election. Hundreds of election observers were also barred from monitoring the vote, and thousands of Kurds displaced by fighting in southeastern Turkey may not have been able to vote because they have no address, according to the Independent Election Monitoring Network, a Turkish watchdog. Despite this, Mr. Erdogan's victory fell far short of the 20-point majority that he and his supporters had expected. "This is a little bit bittersweet," said Cüneyt Deniz, an Erdogan supporter celebrating in Ankara. "We were expecting above 60%. The result revealed a deeply divided country, nearly half of which now feels highly embittered. I am incredibly sad right now," said Yesim Kara, 37, a no voter in Istanbul. "Dark days are ahead. Mr. Erdogan's victory will enhance the stability of the government, but it will weaken social stability," said Özgür Unlu Hazarsikli, the director of the Ankara office of the German Marshall Fund of the United States, a research group. Yeah.